DraftKings contributors Garion, Thorne, Matt Meiselman, RotoWire's Nick Whalen here for some Chaser Fade. So agree or disagree for me here, guys, with the following DFS or sportsbook plays on tonight's 7-game NBA slate. Top price guy on the board, Luka Doncic. Not a huge surprise. He's coming off back-to-back 75-plus DK fantasy point outings against the Clippers, which included a high of 51 points last Thursday. Tonight he gets a much tougher defensive opponent. We're talking to Miami Heat. So Chaser Fade Luka in your lineups tonight, Nick.
You know, I'm not going to tell you to fade Luka Doncic. He's kind of entered that Jokic zone over these last few games, 65-plus in each of his last 3, 70-plus in the last 2, like you said. But this is not a great matchup. Heat are number 1 against the position when it comes to limiting DraftKings production. So I would at least entertain some of the other options that we have on the slate. We'll see if Giannis Antetokounmpo, who did not play last night, ends up playing tonight on the second half of the back-to-back. You have Joel Embiid going up against the Celtics. You have Karl Anthony Towns. You got Jason Tatum. You got Trae Young. A few other guys in that 8,500 to 9,500 range that you can pair together. So I think I'll probably end up fading Luka Doncic. I think he's going to be a popular option. But there are just too many other ways to look tonight. I mean, those last 3 games, I should say, where Doncic went off, game against the Detroit Pistons, and then 2 games against the Clippers, which for some reason Doncic just has like this vengeance. Whenever he plays the Clippers, he's going to go off, dating back to the last few playoffs. I wouldn't say things come crashing down against the Heat, but I don't think we're looking at a 70-plus point upside tonight.
All right, Garion, not just the highest priced guard, but the highest priced player on this entire slate. You going to squeeze him in?
I'll probably have some exposure, but, echoing what Nick was saying, this is clearly not as good a matchup as we've seen in the past. Although I guess the kind of like sneaky secret about the Mavericks is every game they play is a low-paced spot because they consistently are the slowest-paced team in basketball across like the last half decade. So I'm not really overly concerned about the matchup, although I do think there's a chance just with how expensive he is, how much of a reputation the Heat have, and really just like the fact that anyone participating in that Timberwolves-Hornets game is going to be so popular, including LaMelo Ball, who's just $9,100, that maybe Doncic is his ownership is a little lower than it should be on a slate like this, which is why I'm still a little enticed. But at the end of the day, we're talking about someone who across his last 6 games has a 43% usage rate and is averaging a 37-point triple-double. So I'm going to have him in a couple lineups just out of sheer fear of missing out.
All right, Maddie, what are you going to do here with the highest priced player on this slate?
Well, I'm going to wait until we know if Jimmy Butler is playing or not, because he's questionable tonight. And whether or not you have Butler in, I think is probably going to have a pretty big impact on Luka. I don't know that Butler would guard him the entire game necessarily, but you have to imagine that with Butler's defensive acumen and with Luka being such an important part of the Mavericks offense, basically he's the entire offense. If Butler's out there, he's probably guarding Luka at least some of the time. And without Butler, I think the defense does drop off quite a bit. So I like Luka more if Butler is out. But I'm looking at Giannis. Like, I think Giannis comes back tonight. I think last night was basically resting. Like, they were playing Portland at home. This game is Indiana at home. They called it an ankle injury, but I expect Giannis to be out there. And he's probably going to be the lowest owned of the studs. And he also has the best matchup. I mean, the Pacers don't play any defense anymore since Miles Turner got hurt, basically. It's even worse since the trade deadline. If this game does stay close, I think Giannis does really well. And the rest of the team is going to be tired. They just lost at home to Portland last night. A lot of big minutes for guys that don't normally play those minutes. And Giannis didn't play. He was the one resting. So I think Giannis gets back out there, does really well. And if the game does stay within range, Giannis could have a huge game tonight. So he's my favorite pay-up option ahead of Luka.